All right, next up is Alan Mayberry, who's the Deputy Associate Administrator for Policy and Programs for PHMSA. And let me get back out of PDF format here and back into PowerPoint. Mr. Mayberry.
All right, thanks, Carl. I must say, coming to the Pipeline Safety Trust is one way to learn about unresolved issues. So I know Dr. Goldston and I talked about this issue yesterday somewhat, and we agreed to do some follow-up after this, but learn something new every day. Would certainly appreciate the work you've done in that area. What I'm going to talk about today is our role relevant to siting and construction. I wanted to first say I do appreciate some help that I received on this presentation. I did, in particular, Karen Lynch from our office in Washington, and then Karen Gentili in our Eastern Region office, Steve Nanny out of our Houston office, and then Wang Hung Nguyen out of our DC office, all sort of helped me put together what I'm going to cover here today. And of course, the input here also is a reflection of the good work that the 200-plus employees of the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration do every day regarding a variety of topics here relevant to construction oversight. So much appreciative. I'm really the messenger of the good work that they do. Here's, in a few slides, what I plan to cover. First off, relevant to our mission, what we regulate, kind of a summary of what's out there that we regulate. Talk a good bit about pipeline planning and construction and our role there. Resources that are available to you, whether you're a local community, a county official, a city council, regarding planning for construction that we've done, that we have out there. And then a forward look on what we're looking to as far as policy moves in the future. First off, our mission, I know we talked about this, I covered it yesterday, is relevant to pipeline safety. It's to ensure the safe, reliable, environmentally sound operation of the nation's pipeline transportation system. I have a link to our website there that will give you access to further information. And in carrying out that role, we issue, in particular, two regulations that many are familiar with. What we call Part 192, which is our gas regulation, and then Part 195, the one that covers hazardous liquid pipelines, which would include crude oil, refined products such as gasoline, kerosene, jet fuel, and also highly volatile liquids such as propane and natural gas liquids. We do perform inspections, and then we also monitor for and enforce compliance against those regulations, and then issue actions that require action on the part of the operator. We do assess civil penalties, although I must say, really our focus is performance, our focus is safety, our focus is keeping the product in the pipe, and civil penalties are one measure we have, or one of the tools in our toolbox, so to speak, in carrying out that mission that we have. We have on occasion, one of our tools is initiating criminal action. That has happened on occasion in a variety of ways. In construction in the last few years, that's been an area where we've seen some criminal activity or criminal follow-up in relation to some issues on pipeline construction projects. But I must say, though, it's really a rarity when that comes up, fortunately, but it has happened. It just gives you kind of a swath of what we do cover as far as our oversight and what we do in follow-up. As far as what's out there, this map here is a shot of our national pipeline, from our national pipeline mapping system. It's an overview of gas transmission in blue and liquid lines in red. And this represents transmission pipelines. It's less than half of of the 2.6 million miles that we cover. Now, here's just a chart showing you all the pipelines that are population of pipelines that are under our jurisdiction, about 2.6 million miles, just under 2.7 million. Through our state, through agreements with state authorities and 52 authorities, we do have agreements in exchange for grant funding for oversight of, in particular, gas distribution pipelines and some gas transmission pipelines at the state level. So a good bit of the population that is out there is overseen on our behalf through an agreement with the states. And of course, we do cover liquefied natural gas. I'm really not going to say too much about that today, although we do work closely with FERC related to LNG facilities, and here of late has been a big push related to export facilities. But in the interest of time, I really don't focus on LNG, but I'd be glad to talk to anyone about that if there are any questions. Regarding planning and construction, you know, an operator is obligated to meet really the federal and the state requirements needed there to obtain permits to constructing the pipeline, working with FERC on the federal level, and then in some cases on the state level. And I'll get into really how it's broken down as far as siting for interstate natural gas transmission lines, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC. Intrastate natural gas would be the states, and then hazardous liquid pipelines. That's kind of an oddity in the siting for interstate liquid lines. It also reverts to the states. At the federal level for siting with FERC, it's only the interstate natural gas pipelines. Although for hazardous liquid lines, FERC does regulate the rates for liquid lines, the rates they're charged for moving product. For cross-border pipelines, the U.S. State Department handles siting. And then for distribution pipelines, in particular I'm talking gas distribution, it is county and local government as far as siting goes, and that's typically subject to what are called franchise agreements for operators to have a certificate to operate in different localities. Now we have, relevant to siting, we have what's called a Memorandum of Understanding with FERC that was signed back in 1993 that outlines how we cooperate together, and that includes how we receive notifications. We're on FERC mailing lists. We also communicate regularly with FERC regarding projects, in particular the major ones. On occasion, they do request that we participate in the scoping meetings, and we routinely do that. And we participate in a way that we deal with and answer pipeline safety questions that may come up in the scoping meetings. We can't get to all of them, obviously. The number of projects are vast, and I can tell you in the coming years there's quite a big expectation for projects coming out. And, you know, with our staffing, our limited resources, we can't get to all of the projects as far as the scoping meetings. But we do try to get to the major ones. And then I think I've already covered this. Related to liquid lines, there's really no federal authority for siting other than if it's a cross-border pipeline. And it does rest with the individual states. We do coordinate with FERC, and I'll just go ahead and say when we do participate as a cooperating agency and comment on the FERC docket on occasion relevant to pipeline safety matters with the pipeline. And on occasion, they do ask us to weigh in on particular issues that's come up on occasion. And so in that way, it does impact the siting of a pipeline. I know we've had some involvement on the Keystone XL pipeline, for instance, that the cross-border line that's still pending approval, but we've cooperated with the State Department in that regard and given them input regarding pipeline safety measures on that project. Similarly, we do that with other projects in the lower 48 and in Alaska. Now, we do have a relatively new requirement out there that covers our construction oversight. It's a notification for when construction is going to occur. We require for operators to let us know 60 days prior to starting construction. And this slide kind of gives you a breakdown of kind of the criteria for that. And, you know, it's really, with our experience with this, it's a relatively new reg. We found that we really need to, it's helpful if we know sooner than 60 days. I mean, much sooner than 60 days, as soon as it's known or that the project's going to be constructed, in the early stages when well procedure qualifications are taking place, sometimes those are beyond the 60-day limit. So it's helpful if we know in advance of, say, material procurement, well procedure qualifications, definitely construction move-in activities, and definitely on-site fabrications. But we issued an advisory bulletin recently to request that operators let us know as soon as possible well before construction starts. Let's get into resources that are available to planners and the public. First off, the National Pipeline Mapping System is a tool available. It's a GIS system that shows what pipelines are in your particular neighborhood. There's a public access to that that's available that allows the public to look at pipelines at the county level. And that gives you access to what pipelines are in your locality. Certainly FERC has a website, and of course FERC does engage the public, but through their website is another source of information relevant to projects that are coming up. And you'll find projects there well before we actually know about them. So if you want to see what's coming down the road, the FERC website is a source of information on that, on projects for gas transmission, that is. Now, certainly our own stakeholder communications website has a variety of tools and information relevant to construction, our oversight of operations and maintenance, and a variety of other areas. We've had some complaints that there's just so much there, it can be overwhelming as far as trying to find information. But there's a lot on there, a lot of good information that's useful for the public and for planners. Within that website, you'll find a part that deals with the initiative Pipelines and Informed Planning Alliance. That's an initiative to, help localities understand the risks and enhance safety around development around pipelines. And I know Carl is represented on the board of that group. We have a cross-section of industry that keep that going. And there is a report that lists best practices relevant to land use planning around pipelines. It's helpful if you're a local planner. And then our CATS, or our Community and Assistance and Technical Services Managers, we have in our 5 region offices, we have 2 CATS managers in each office. And their role is to communicate with landowners and others out there and to kind of work between the different stakeholders, between FERC, between us, between other federal agencies or other state agencies. And they do help facilitate permits. I know there's some discussion yesterday related to tree clearing in California and the role. That's usually an issue that we may get involved in helping an operator or helping a locality as they deal with the pipeline safety ramifications of an issue with a pipeline. You can reach the contact information for all of our CATS managers at that link down there. Now, looking forward, we recently issued guidelines for flow reversals. It was in an advisory bulletin. I think Carl mentioned it in I appreciate the blurb in the publication that's in our materials for this meeting. And I talked about this topic last year at this meeting. We've seen, in the replumbing of America, as it's been referred to, with the introduction of shale gas plays and just the supply source changes, it's really causing a sort of a shifting in where the gas and the liquids are flowing in the U.S. So we're seeing a lot of lines that are being reversed. So with that comes a change in the threat profile of how you manage integrity on that pipeline. So we just issued a advisory bulletin to alert operators or remind operators that they need to consider the changes in the threat profile as they deal with reversals of pipelines. Looking forward to operator qualification for construction. That's an area that we plan to. It's kind of a missing link to operator qualification. It already covered operations and maintenance, but we also are extending that or looking to extend it to construction. And then quality management systems for construction. Yesterday you heard a discussion related to safety management systems. We see quality management systems as sort of a covered under the umbrella of safety management systems, but a way to manage quality on construction and to ensure that lessons are learned on issues that are found during construction projects and applied to other parts of the project so that we ensure a quality product at the end. This is an initiative we started in the aftermath of really seeing a number of inspections where we noticed construction issues and the need to improve quality. In fact, currently we have an R&D project going on relevant to QMS, as we call it, to look for solutions and a path forward. And I know industry is also doing some work in that area that we look forward to seeing as well.